Hello, welcome back to Talkin' Transit with Subwaymark. In the past 8 months, I've been to Los Angeles 3 times. I've been to Los Angeles before, but I've seen some interesting things that are occurring that makes me want to talk about LA, and not necessarily in a good way. So let's dive in and find out why I'm very disappointed in the direction LA's transit is going. Welcome back. Well, again, the purpose of my channel and this video series is to provide my insight and experience of riding transit systems, passenger rail, and railway museums from around the world. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so today. Hit that like button and that notification bell so you know anytime a new video hits the feed. Los Angeles, where the car is king and transit is an afterthought. In the 1990s, it looked like transit was going to make a comeback in LA, but I think it's kind of fallen backwards a little bit, and I'll tell you why. But first, let's tell you a little bit about the history of LA's transit system. So in the early 1900s, Los Angeles was developed by the Pacific Electric Railway, or the red cars. Also within the city itself, there was the yellow cars from the LA Railway. At its peak, there was over 1,000 miles of electric railways all around the LA region. Imagine being able to hop on an electric interurban and go anywhere you want within the LA region. The red car developed most of the cities around LA. They were originally streetcar suburbs, and they became cities on their own. Cities that you know today, such as Santa Monica, Pasadena, Long Beach, Bellflower, Culver City, and more, were all developed by the Pacific Electric. However, by the 1930s, there was a push to move Pacific Electric's trains to buses. The PE hasn't been making money anyway. The PE original main revenue stream was to sell the land along the rail lines. And then their thought was those people would then pay their nickel to ride the red car into Los Angeles. But once the system was fully developed, there was not much more land to sell. So then they had to rely straight on the red car themselves to make the profits. And moving people costs money. And so the red car was not making money. And by the 1930s, buses started to be replacing some of the red car lines. Also at the same time, automobile was becoming king. There was a lot of push to move those big red cars and the yellow cars off the streets because they're blocking automobiles. But also at the same time, those automobiles were causing schedule problems for the red car and yellow cars because they were blocking the trains. So schedule reliability became more of a challenge. After World War II, the push to move more lines to buses became faster and faster. And by the 1950s, the PE itself and LA transit lines was sold to National City Lines. Now the NCL was owned by GM, Firestone, as well as Standard Oil. Guess what they were interested in? Not necessarily moving everyone to buses, although GM was selling buses, but also moving more people off to transit and into their private automobiles, because there'd be more money to be made off that. But that's a whole other conspiracy discussion that's been well talked about. So Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he was right. LA decided to pave their whole area with freeways. No one's going to ride the red car anymore. The last red car to Long Beach was in 1961, and the last yellow car was in 1963. LA quickly became the freeway capital of the United States. Freeways going everywhere, continuous construction, building more freeways. Some of those freeways were built alongside, parallel to, or on top of the former Pacific Electric right-of-ways. Why? Because they moved the people. They also kind of split neighborhoods, and a lot of neighborhoods died because of those freeways were built through them. But what happens with all those automobiles and encouraging more automobiles, more and more traffic? Soon, LA became famous for their parking lot freeways with unbelievable congestion. LA still has notorious traffic to this day. With that traffic, people started thinking about, well, maybe we should bring back our rail transit. It did move people, and we need an alternative to the automobile. Well, finally, in 1990, the first rail transit returned to the LA basin. and that is the Blue Line that runs from downtown LA to Long Beach, now called the A Line. The A Line runs mostly on top of the original red car line to Long Beach that ended in 1961. In 1992, the first subway line opened in Los Angeles. The subway lines became the red and purple lines, but now are called the B and D lines. Construction on the Wilshire Boulevard for the D line proved problematic to the point where legislation was formed to block any further subway construction in LA, which was very unfortunate, because that's the one thing about the subway lines in LA. They're fast and move people. But with the blocking of further subway lines, LA continued to develop light rail lines around the basin. The next one to open was the Green Line, or today's C Line, which runs down the median of the Century Freeway and then down to El Segundo. The next line up was the line up to Pasadena. That is the Gold Line, or now the L Line. The L Line has since been extended down into East Los Angeles and then also up towards Azusa, and its further extensions are in the works. The next light rail line to open is the Expo Line, or the E Line. That line goes out to Santa Monica, and a lot of it's on the right-of-way of the former Pacific Electric line that went out to Santa Monica. The newest light rail line, which just opened just a few months ago, is the K Line, or what was the Crenshaw Line. So the K Line currently starts at Crenshaw and Expo, where it connects to the E Line and then ends at Westchester. But next year it's going to extend further south and connect with the People Mover train that will go to LAX Airport, and then we'll move further south to connect with the C Line, or Green Line. There is still more construction being had, so other than just the K Line extension. The subway moratorium was lifted, and so now the Wilshire Boulevard Purple Line, or D Line, is being extended. The construction is in progress as we speak. Subways do move people much better than the light rail lines, so I'm hoping that this will be a successful line. And before I go to what's wrong with LA Transit, there is one cute little line in LA. Well, actually there's three. But the first I'm going to talk about is Angel's Flight. So that is a funicular in downtown LA that goes up Bunker Hill. It's very short, but it is a vital link for those who live or work at the top of the hill and want to go down. The cars are historic, and it's a very neat ride. I do highly recommend people ride it. And then there's two little trolley lines in LA. One's in Glendale, and the other one is at the LA's Farmers Market, and they run little battery-operated trolleys through shopping centers. Okay, so what's wrong with LA Transit? Well, there are several things. So let me start with some of the structural issues that I consider with LA. First up is most of the system is light rail. And although light rail is good, it's a medium capacity transit and cannot move as many people, and its biggest drawback is the amount of interaction with road vehicles. So even though the light rail in LA has exclusive right-of-way, it has numerous crossings and has to deal with numerous traffic lights along the way. And this is probably what leads to unequal headways that I've seen on at least on the A and the E lines. They're supposed to run maybe every 10 minutes, but you'll see gaps in service and then bunched up trains, and most likely because of these road crossings. So let's talk more about the A and E as it leaves downtown LA from 7th Street and Metro Center. It'll rise to the surface at Pico and then has numerous road crossings to get to which junction where the two lines diverge. So the A will head to the left and the E will continue straight. I've noticed that the trains bunch up there, and it's a slog to get through there because of the lights. And not only is that junction a grade level junction, but it is in the middle of a road intersection as well. So the trains may bunch up and wait for the traffic lights to clear for the cars so the trains can go through. So that's the Achilles heel of at least those two lines. And then one thing I noticed with the Expo line is overcrowding. They're running 2-car trains, and the trains are very busy to crowd it. It needs higher frequency and or longer trains, preferably higher frequency, but with the shared trackage and terminal in downtown LA between the A and E, that makes it difficult. huge gaps, at least in the light rail portion system, is the fact that you have the A and the E lines that are running south and west, separate from the L line, which is running north and east. Now that is being fixed with the regional transit connector, which will add 3 underground stations in downtown LA and link up those 2 parts of the system. However, that line has been delayed and delayed and delayed. It should be opening sometime this year, and that will be a boon to downtown LA and those who ride the light rail, because now those coming in on the L line won't have to transfer at Union Station to the subway and then transfer again at 7th and Metro Center to get to Santa Monica or down to Long Beach. It'll be much easier now. Instead of transferring twice, maybe they don't have to transfer at all or just transfer once. So that'll be a big help to move people through the city. The next is the airport connection to LAX. LAX is the region's largest airport and one of the busiest airports in the nation. Now currently there is no rail connection to LAX. Now that is going to change. The airport itself is building an internal people mover system, and then the K line is going to be extended and link to that people mover system, so people from the airport can at least get on the rail system. But it's not going to be very convenient for most people, because you will have to board the people mover, transfer the K line, and then currently you have to transfer to the E line, and the E line is in the median of a street. So you come up from the underground station at Crenshaw and Expo, climb to the surface, and then you have to get onto the skinny platforms, which are separated east versus westbound. So that is not the most convenient for hauling luggage. And then, depending on where you're going, you may have to transfer again when you get to downtown LA to the subway to go further out. Now there is plans to extend the K line north, so it will connect with the Wilshire Boulevard or D line extension of the subway. That'll give at least people to the Wilshire corridor much faster ride. But it's still, if you want to go downtown LA, it's still not the most convenient ride to get there. Then there are the buses. LA has a huge amount of buses. The problem is there's multiple bus systems. So you have LA Metro, which is what also runs the trains in LA. But there's nearly every other city in LA has its own bus system. So you'll have LA Metro run into a city, and then you have another set of city buses within that city. And some of those city buses cross city lines. Some of them go all the way into downtown Los Angeles. LA Department of Transportation has its own bus system, the LA Dash, which goes around different neighborhoods in LA. So it's a myriad of different bus systems, and maybe it's good for locals who understand it, but for visitors and tourists, the bus system is probably too confusing. The one good thing is they all take the fare card called TAP, where you can tap on and pay your fare through that fare card or through your mobile device. But it's still very confusing to the outsider. Now LA does have another rail system out there called Metrolink. That's the commuter rail system that covers the entire region of LA, even going down to Oceanside and going out to the Inland Empire and such like that. But that's really designed for commuter traffic. The frequencies are really designed to move people during the peak periods, with some service during midday. So it's not the greatest people mover in the world, but at least there is some sort of commuter rail system to at least counteract some of the commuter road traffic. So besides the bus system and the disjointed rail system, LA has a more serious problem, and that is safety, or at least perception of safety. Now the downtown subway stations that I rode all look old, but they're only 31 years old. The platforms are damaged, the walls don't look that great, the stations just look tired, and the subway cars themselves look tired. The lighting inside the subway cars are poor. So that in itself is not great. The subway and the light rail both have cloth seat covers. Well, that may work in some cities. New York learned a long time ago that does not work. And with the amount of homeless and mental illness that runs rampant in the trains, those cloth seats lead to, let's say, aromas that are unpleasant. The stations themselves have smells. Also, I saw lots of people ignoring the turnstiles, just jumping the turnstiles, almost like New York. It's just disappointing to me that this is a new modern system and it's suffering the problems that New York's had. And I would say it's even worse than New York. I've never had to hop off of a train because I was fearful. In LA, my wife and I were riding on the B line from Hollywood into downtown LA. And in the short travel, there was one person that was trying to bring an oversized dumpster basically onto the subway car. And then one person, yelling at himself, and another person yelling at all the passengers. And it got to the point where when the train got to Vermont and Wilshire, I told my wife we're getting off and we'll take the next one, because the next one will be a D-line from Wilshire, which is a shorter trip. So hopefully it would feel a little safer. And it was. LA needs to do something about this. And this is not unique to LA. It seems most urban transit systems are struggling with this, with drug addicts and homeless people and people with mental illness riding the trains and making people fearful for riding the system. If our politicians and senior managers don't start doing something now, it's going to lead to no one riding the system except for the people who have no other choice. And it's not fair for those people who have no other choice to ride transit to ride under these conditions. The one line I will say, though, in LA that felt safe to ride is the brand new line, the K line. But why would that be? Well, guess what? There was either security or police at every station, and metro ambassadors riding the trains or at the entrance to each station who would say hello and see if you had any questions about riding that line. But there were none of that at any other station I was at in the entire system. So if politicians really want to make a dent in LA traffic, something needs to be done. LA Metro needs to wake up and do something. So what do you think of LA's transit? Please leave a comment below. Well, I hope you like this breakdown of LA Transit and my disappointment in the system. I do hope it improves. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. It will help this channel grow, and I really do appreciate it. So until next time, watch the closing doors, and I'll see you at the next station. Bye now.